Earth shakes, faults awaken, and a country asks, are we ready for the big one? Good morning. I'm Atty. Karen Jimeno, and this is At the Forefront. After a 6.9 magnitude earthquake rocked Cebu, fault lines once silent have come alive, exposing the power beneath our feet and the fragility above it. From the newly discovered Bogo Bay Fault to the ever-looming West Valley Fault, the ground is sending a message we can no longer ignore. Can DOST PHIVOLCS help the nation prepare for the big one before the Earth moves again? It's his first time to grace Bilyonaryo News Channel. We have the Director of DOST PHIVOLCS, Teresito Bacolcol. Good morning, Director Teresito.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning then. And thank you for having me here.
And thank you for being here today, Director. What's the latest situation on the Cebu earthquake?
Okay, so as of 8 a.m. Today, we were able to record 9,800 aftershocks.
Ilan po?
9,800.
9,800, napakadami.
9,887 aftershocks. And the highest magnitude is magnitude 5.1. But so far, again, based on the trend, humihina naman yan. Actually, if you look at the past earthquakes, say for instance, at the first 24 hours, you have 2,000 earthquakes. And then on the 10th day, it will become 200 to 300. And then on the 100th day, it just become around probably 20 to 30. So,
but when you say on the 100th day, parang 3 months from the time the earthquake.
That's
so,
right.
patuloy pa po itong aftershock.
Yeah, but nagdi-diminish yung strength. Halos, siguro when I say 20 to 30 aftershock, after 3 months, halos wala nang makakaramdam. Only our instruments would be able to pick the signatures.
Okay, so ano po ang may expect natin sa Cebu? Safe na po ba puntahan? Pwede na po bang magbiyahe ang mga turista dito?
Yes, I think so. Ang hindi lang safe if yung mga bahay na may evidence of or visibly weakened by the strong earthquake last September 30. So if there are cracks sa mga bahay or mga structures, then they have to consult their municipal or city engineers and seek for their advice. Yung mga structurally compromised buildings should not be reoccupied unless certified safe by structural engineers.
Okay. Nagkaroon daw po ng coastal uplift sa Bogo. Ano po ba itong coastal uplift? Okay,
so basically ang motion ng Bogo Bay Fault is horizontal. But there are other parts along the Bogo Bay Fault na may vertical uplift. So umangat yung isang bloke. And as a result, yung what used to be the highest high tide ay ngayon hindi na umaabot doon. So meron yung ating team ay nakapag-measure ng around 70 meters na offset from the previous highest high tide to the current highest high tide.
Actually, that still sounds very technical. Ano pong ibig sabihin nun? So para kunwari, mangingisda, yung mga mangingisda,
that's right.
nabawasan po ba yung areas na pwede nilang puntahan because of this?
Sabihin na lang natin, nag-gain ng beachfront yung barangay na Ilon. Kasi
tumaas siya.
Tumaas siya, so hindi na
mas marami ng lupa.
Yes, that's right.
Pero para dun sa mga mangingisda, mas umurong kung saan sila pwede mangisda.
That's right. Umurong yung dagat. So yung highest high tide dati, hindi na umabot doon. So dito na at certain 70 meters na from the previous.
Napakalaki rin po nun. Ano po ang implication nito? Yung natirang bagong 70 meters. Bawal tayuan? Pwede
naman tayuan kasi maging permanent na yan. It also happened in Bohol during the 2013
permanent
earthquake.
Na po yan.
Yes,
hindi yan pwedeng lumubog na at bumaba ulit.
That's right. In fact, the whole, kung titignan mo yung Cebu, made up of limestones. And saan ang galing yung limestones? Galing yung silalim ng dagat.
So over the years,
over the years, not years, but over probably thousands of the same events, aangat yan. So that's part of natural mountain building process.
Mountain building, okay. We've seen photos of sinkholes. So meron tayong areas na tumaas, pero meron naman din mga sinkholes near the Bogo Bay Fault. Ano po ang significance nitong mga sinkholes na to at gaano ka-importante yung pag-identify nyo ng sinkholes para hindi matayuan ng mga temporary shelters? Or baka kailangan po ba mag-relocate ng mga ibang mga tirahan or commercial areas?
Okay, mas maganda actually tanungin yung Mines and Geosciences Bureau kasi when it comes to sinkholes, sila talagang mandates. May mandate to explain and to provide recommendations. But anyway, I can also briefly explain, but the detail would come from Mines
As a
and
scientist
Geosciences. That's
po,
right,
can you
that's right.
help us
Usually,
understand?
it's very common among limestone areas. And again, Cebu is basically made up of limestones. Same thing in Bohol. And sa ilalim niyan, may mga caverns na yun, may mga caves, may mga subterranean passageways. Ngayon, hindi natin nakikita before the earthquake kasi may covered
Ng
soil,
lupa. Okay.
So during strong shaking, bumagsak yung cover, exposing these limestones, exposing these sinkholes rather.
Hindi ba, wala ba tayong mga machines to help us identify sinkholes?
Meron. Actually, MGB, the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, is using ground-penetrating radar para ma-identify yung mga subterranean passageways.
Yeah, don't we have land use plans that would prevent structures, whether it's residential, commercial areas, from being built around these sinkholes?
Well, it's supposed to be kasama yan sa one of the parts ng comprehensive land use plans to identify areas kung saan sila pwedeng magtayo ng bahay at kung saan sila hindi pwedeng magtayo ng bahay. So, yun, presence of sinkholes, presence of active faults, dapat i-consider yan sa kanilang CLUPs.
Sa ngayon po, based on those that had to be evacuated or relocated, tumutulong po ba ang PHIVOLCS at ang Mines and Geosciences Bureau dun sa pag-identify which areas are safe to build temporary shelters or permanent relocation sites?
Yes, tumutulong kami. In fact, yung quick response team natin sa field right now, nandun pa rin sila, ay ongoing yung pakipag-dialogue nila sa mga LGUs para ma-identify first and foremost yung active fault, yung Bogo Bay Fault, and then mabigyan ng advice yung mga LGUs, o yung LGU kung saan dapat hindi magtayo ng bahay kasi ang recommendation ng PHIVOLCS, you're not supposed to build a structure on top of an active fault. Meron tayong buffer zone na 5 meters on both sides. And they already
Nasusunod po ba yan? Here in Metro Manila and of course in Cebu?
Sa Metro Manila, again, meron tayong mga permanent structures that around 3,000 permanent structures on top of the West Valley Fault.
At up to now, hindi pa rin-relocate or hindi na tinatanggal?
Karamihan dito ay mga private ng houses. So you cannot force them out. Ang ano natin is, it should be informed decision. They should know the risk and it's up to them as long as we've explained the risk of staying there.
So sa Metro Manila po ba, up to now, risky yung mga areas na nakatayo along the fault lines? Kasi ang pagkakaalam ko, even some of the expensive subdivisions like Green Meadows daw, malapit sa fault line. Is that correct?
I'll check with that. But
Okay.
yes, there are subdivisions na transected by the West Valley Fault. The thing is, wala kasing engineering intervention for the ground rupture. But even then, kahit kasi magkakaroon ng maling perception yung mga tao na, malayo naman ako sa fault. Ang recommendation ng PHIVOLCS is just 5 meters. 100 meters away naman ako. Which is wrong kasi the whole of Metro Manila will experience intensity 8 shaking. So, you have to make sure na maganda pagkagawa ng bahay mo kasi intensity 8 shaking is already considered as destructive. So, sasabihin mo, malayo naman ako, I'm 500 meters away from the fault. Kung hindi naman pulido yung pagkagawa, that would still collapse.
Okay, at ano po ba ang pinagkaiba ng Bogo Bay Fault from the West Valley Fault and other types of fault lines?
Okay, so pareho silang strike slip, horizontal motion. But the Bogo Bay Fault, a big part of the Bogo Bay Fault ay nasa dagat. So, right now, ang estimate natin for the length of the Bogo Bay Fault would just be around 40 to 50 kilometers long. For the West Valley Fault, that's 100 kilometers. All the way from Bulacan, to Cavite.
When you say kaya po siya 50 kilometers, it's because most of it is underwater or that 50 already includes the water?
Kasama na yan.
So konti lang pala yung,
Okay.
in a sense, yung
That's right,
affected
that's
na tao.
Yung na mapa ng mga kasama ko ngayon is around 8 kilometers. So a big part of the Bogo Bay Fault ay nasa dagat. So paano natin na-estimate yung yung 50 kilometers. A fault, to be able to generate a magnitude 6.9 event is just around, would be around 40 to 50 kilometers. So it's the same thing. That's the reason why we're saying na the West Valley Fault is capable of generating a magnitude 7.2 event. It's because of its length. It's 100 kilometers.
Okay. And na-foresee niyo po ba itong nangyaring earthquake sa Cebu? Did you foresee it ahead?
No, kasi our historical data would go back to 1600s, and we have no major earthquake activity on that northeastern side of Cebu.
Since when po?
Since 1600s.
Since 1600s?
Yes,
wow,
we have
ang tagal na
1600
pala.
historical data. So it means that wala siyang activity for the last 400 years. So it could be even more than 400 years kasi ang data natin is only until 1600. So now it's on land trace. Cebu is mostly made up of limestones. So madaling ma-dissolve yan sa ulan, madaling ma-erode. And yung mga fault markers natin na pwede sana natin magamit to identify, we can pwede natin ma-assume na this could just probably be the natural features of limestones.
So, pag ganun po ba, wala ba bagong technologies given this era of AI that would allow us to detect when an earthquake is about to occur? Para wala pa
There's
rin.
no technology yet that can tell us exactly when an earthquake would happen. May idea tayo that it would probably happen on the last, say, a range between 400 to 600 years, just like what we're saying sa West Valley Fault. Meron tayong technique dyan, the carbon-14 dating, and then we call that radiometric dating, polyseismology. So, kapag may fault tayo, identify natin sa active fault, naghuhukay tayo, and then we get carbon samples. And we would be able to get how many times in the past it moved. Okay.
Very complicated po pala yung proseso. But mahal po ba ito?
Well, yung carbon-14 naman, it's quite expensive. But kung may collaboration tayo with, like, say, mga foreign universities, nakakuha naman. In fact, some pwede nga libre kung we have a strong collaboration with them, tie up with them.
Are we able to do that right now?
Yes, some. Meron tayong mga, we have this collaboration with a American university, and nakakuha tayo ng free na, but this is for the volcanoes. We get samples from the volcanoes and then pinapa-date natin sa kanila.
Okay. There's a statement by the PHIVOLCS na wala daw connection between the Cebu quake and the Taal's minor eruption, yung minor eruption po ng Taal volcano. Is that correct? Kasi
Yes,
meron po iba nagsispekulate na link daw tong dalawang events na to.
Well, walang connection yan. Again, if you recall, the earthquake happened last September 30 at around 9:59 p.m. And then October 1, early morning October 1, meron tayong dalawang minor eruptions. Pero nagkataon lang yan. It's nothing to do with yung eruption ng Taal volcano, has nothing to do with yung earthquake ng September 30. It's just that we have 24 active faults. No, we have 24 active volcanoes and more than 180 active faults. So there's always this possibility na magkakasabay-sabay yung activity.
Okay. At kamusta naman po ang Taal volcano ngayon? Are we due for an eruption soon based on its activities?
Taal volcano right now is on alert level 1. So yung minor phreatic eruption na nangyari October 1, it's just part of its status as alert level 1.
Okay. So wala namang pangamba?
Walang pangamba.
With thousands of aftershocks and billions in damage, how do we make sure that the big one doesn't catch us unprepared? But before you answer this question, Director, we'll have to take a short break.
Okay,
At the
thank you.
forefront, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Welcome back at the forefront. Director Teresito, with thousands of aftershocks and billions in damage, how do we make sure that the big one won't catch us unprepared?
Okay, so may mga initiatives naman yung ginagawa yung gobyerno natin. For one, meron tayong Oplan Yakal Plus. This was This was done in 2015 with MMDA and NDRMC. Dito naka-outline kung anong gagawin ng government, ano yung mga response dapat na gawin in the event of magnitude 7.2 event. Kami naman sa PHIVOLCS, again, we've already mapped the length of the fault and continue pa rin yung aming ugnayan with the LGUs, our information dissemination campaigns. We do walk the fault activities. Tinuturo namin sa mga LGUs yung kung saan yung exact trace ng fault para maging aware yung mga tao. In fact, some of the LGUs like sa Pasig, sa Quezon City, minamark nila yung trace ng fault and nilalagyan nila ng marker so that people would become aware.
Parang hindi namin nakikita. Hindi pa ako nakakita ng fault marker in my
Ginagawa
life.
natin yan.
Okay, ano po ba itsura nun?
It's just parang benchmark. Okay.
Pero nakasulat, fault line.
Yes, that's right, that's right.
Hanap nga po niyan. But para sa mga nakikinig din sa atin, can you explain to us, yung big one, saan lang po ba pwede itong mangyari? Bakit tinatawag ng the big one?
Okay, so the term big one was originally coined to refer to the magnitude 7.2 earthquake that will be generated by the West Valley Fault. Okay, so the big one dito kasi that it transects highly populated areas, and of course Metro Manila is where the political seat of the government.
Yes,
and it's
andito
where
lahat.
The economic hub.
Opo.
But the thing is, nakakalimutan natin that there are bigger ones in other parts of the country. Like say the Gabaldon Fault in Nueva Ecija, it's capable of generating a magnitude 7.9 event.
Mas mataas pa,
Mas mataas pa.
7.9, yes.
Meron din tayo the trenches natin. These are all capable of generating magnitude 8. So when we say magnitude 8, these are great earthquakes. And say for instance yung the Philippine Trench segment in Samar, it's capable of generating an 8.1 event. And when that happens, and if the earthquake is shallow, it may generate tsunamis as based on the modeling up to 10 meters high. The Manila Trench, it's capable of generating 8.3 event.
Ang lalaas.
And
Tataas
if that
pala.
happens, pwedeng magkaroon ng tsunami sa Manila Bay kung shallow yung earthquake. And based sa estimates natin, ang tsunami waves would be around 3.5 meters. And it could go as high as 5.5 during high tide. So wag natin kalimutan that there are other parts of the country na...
So the big one is applicable just for the West Valley Fault when we talk about how the term was coined. Kasi
Yes, that's
dahil
right.
nga malaki yung magiging damage sa Metro Manila. Dahil ito ang seat ng government, nandito yung financial centers. Pero marami pa palang pwedeng malalaking earthquake sa ibang parts ng Pilipinas.
That's right. Kasi we have 180 active fault segments. And these are all capable of generating from to minor, to light, to moderate, to strong, and even major earthquakes.
I've read reports on the possible effects of the big one to the Philippines, including a report written by the World Bank. And the amount of damages that are estimated are staggering, including the amount of lives that might be affected. Nung 2018 po, pumirma si President Duterte nung Executive Order 52. This was in May 2018. And this created the Program Management Office for Earthquake Resiliency in the Greater Metro Manila area. Ano na po bang status nito? Nagagamit po ba itong office na to? It was called the PMOERG.
Well, hindi na siya active, wala siyang physical office ngayon. And hindi ko na rin alam anong nangyari sa office na yan that was created. But tama po kayo, yung study ng World Bank. And in fact, even earlier, we have a study na aabot ng 33,000 casualties in the event of movement of the West Valley Fault. So 33, that was done in 2004.
Yeah, that would be tragic,
Yeah.
33,000. And I'm sure that number probably has increased because of the density of Metro Manila increasing.
That's right. We're going to do a revisit of that study next year. Again, that study was done with the help of JICA, and we will be doing the same thing next year. So together with the Office of the Civil Defense and the Department of Science and Technology, we will revisit that study because more than 2 decades na yung study na yan. So titingnan natin kasi may retrofitting naman ginagawa yung ating gobyerno. Although dumadami din yung mga tao. So ano yung effect nito doon sa original na statistics na ginawa noong 2004.
Okay. Recently po kasama ko si Sandigan Bayan Presiding Justice Ekong at pinakita niya sa akin yung mga pictures ng ibang courthouses sa Cebu na nasira. So, when you're talking about retrofitting, are you confident that the government is able to do that properly given the issues that we are now discovering with the flood control controversy na over-designed, pero under-designed ang mga infrastructure projects when it comes to implementation para yung buffer na pwedeng pagkakitaan ay malaki. So, are you worried na yung retrofitting is not happening properly?
Well, again, hindi ko masasabi yan, but sinasabi ng DPWH, they have already retrofitted more than 120 public buildings in Metro Manila. So, there's always this presumption of regularity. So, I trust that they're doing their job well.
Wala ba tayong way para i-test kung, it's up to standard, yung pag-retrofit nila?
Sila kasi yung may expertise.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
of course, the LGU. So, we just trust, we trust the process and, that everybody is doing...
Kaya nakakatakot naman po ba? Pero, now that, PHIVOLCS is revisiting that World Bank study as to the effects of a big one in Metro Manila, to avoid yung casualties na ganun kalaki, na underestimate na ngayon ang 33,000, it is likely much more than that. Meron po ba kayong gagawin to proactively, perhaps, force the government to check yung mga retrofitting kung tama at perhaps yung rezoning and relocating infrastructure so that walang mamamatay kung sakaling magkaroon ng the big one?
Again, kami naman actively closely engaging with the LGU. So, binibigay namin yung information, yung data, and kung saan yung traces ng active faults, yung hazard maps natin, binibigay natin sa kanila. So, again, ang role namin is to provide scientific data and again, work closely with them in disseminating the information sa public.
Are there any private entities that are active when it comes to ensuring earthquake resiliency?
Yes, we're also engaging with NGOs, private organizations, when it comes to preparing not only Metro Manila but other parts of the country as well for big events, for earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunamis.
When it comes to modernizing the equipment, is PHIVOLCS also part of a modernization program by the national government?
Yes, in fact, the President signed the PHIVOLCS Modernization Act last April. So, we're hoping na madagdagan, ma-fast-track yung pag-modernize ng ating opisina. So,
sa ngayon po ba palagay nyo kulang yung mga equipment natin?
Yes. For example, for the size of the Philippines, we need 300 seismic stations. Taiwan, which is 1/10 the size of the Philippines, has around 290 seismic stations. Tayo, which is 10 times bigger than Taiwan, we only have 125 seismic stations. And the ideal number of seismic stations for the size of the Philippines is 300. So we only have 125. So 125,
so about a one-third lang.
175 yung kailangan natin. And every year, kung walang modernization, 4 lang nadadagdag. So 175 divided by 4, that would be more than 40 years bago natin makumpleto yung ideal number of seismic stations.
Ano po bang magagawa ng seismic stations? Will it help us be warned of an earthquake ahead?
Again, we cannot warn, but we can clearly locate yung mga epicenters, and especially it's very important yan when the earthquake is offshore, nasa dagat. We can accurately locate the earthquake and say, nasa dagat yung earthquake. It may generate tsunamis.
So nakakatulong nga siya sa preparedness.
That's right, that's right, that's right.
And how does other platforms like the GeoRisk PH, I think, is Hazard Hunter.
Yes, that's right.
The current DOST Secretary, Rene Solidum, was one of the pioneers of this, yung Hazard Hunter.
Yeah, that's right.
Nagagamit po ba ito ngayon for disaster resilience and preparedness?
Yes, nagagamit yan, especially Hazard Hunter PH. Yung mga kababayan natin, they can easily check kung yung bahay ba nila is ano yung hazards meron? Earthquake-related hazards, volcano-related hazards, even hydromet hazards na nakuha natin yung data from Mines and Geosciences Bureau and Pag-asa. And they can use this for, mga LGUs natin, they can use this for their comprehensive land use plans. For the georics naman, it uses standardized science-based data. And ginagamit ito, for instance, by the Department of Energy to assess their energy facilities. Ngayon, meron tayong collaboration with Department of Education para yung Plan Smart for Safe Schools para ma-identify natin yung mga areas kung saan pwedeng magtayo ng mga schools.
Mga safe structure, opo. At saka, for everyone's knowledge, itong Hazard Hunter, tsaka yung Geo-risk map, nasa online lang to, libre to, di ba?
That's right, that's right.
And you can put your
That's it.
address, tapos
That's right.
makikita mo na lahat ng hazards in your area. Okay, and finally po, without being an alarmist, I know a lot of Filipinos are medyo may fatigue na tayo sa when we hear the word disaster kasi lagi na lang tayong binabagyo and ngayon meron namang earthquake, minsan mga bulkan na pumuputok. What is your message to Filipinos and the public?
Okay, so again, naintindihan ko yung mga yung public na yung kababayan natin na siguro napagod na kasi pagkatapos ng bagyo dito na naman yung lindol, and then last year yung Canlaon volcano erupting, and then the previous year yung Mayon volcano. So we really have to accept our reality that we're part of the Pacific Ring of Fire and nasa typhoon belt tayo. So the best course of action is always preparedness. And we say preparedness. For earthquakes, we follow the minimum engineering standards. We follow the building code. Kasi kahit ano pang gawin nating paghanda, like we participate in earthquake drills, we master the duct cover and hold. Pero kung yung bahay naman natin mag-collapse, hindi pa rin effective yung duct cover and hold natin. So first, we have to follow that. You have to make sure that we follow the building code. Patay tayong bahay, no cutting corners. Follow the building code and the National Structural Code of the Philippines.
Very good advice po, Director Teresito, at saka very practical advice. Thank you for your time today, and we hope you can continue to give us updates.
Yes, thank you also for having me here, ma'am.
The ground may have stopped shaking, but the warning is far from over. DOST PHIVOLCS stands at the front lines, not to predict the next disaster, but to help us survive it. Because in a country built on fault lines, strength isn't just in our foundations. It's in how we rise after the earth moves. Be timely informed, be insightful of the news. Always stay at the forefront. Join us again on Monday for conversations on issues that matter. This is Attorney Karen Jimeno. Thank you for spending your time with us.